Reserve's Wellness and Healing Center.
That's a $3 million project. That one is still underway. It's not open yet. Me and my buddy saved lives, and he gave back by building our kids a skate park. His family held a little gathering and blanketed me and had a dinner and thanked me. So it's like, holy man.
Just a town, you know. People live, they go to school, they work. I think a lot of people work, usually in some sort of community, some service for the community. Residential schools were institutions across Canada that sought to isolate Indigenous children from the culture and beliefs of their communities and assimilate them into Euro-Canadian life. The history of colonial relations with Indigenous peoples has long been a subject of public discourse. While I had often heard a lot about it in the media, I never truly took time to educate myself on the matter. I came across some interesting resources online which are linked in this video's description. I also reached out to Kenny, a First Nations man himself, who kindly agreed to answer some of my burning questions.
Good morning.
Hey Kenny, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm pretty good, man. How's it in Port Alberni?
It's good. It's good. Yeah, the weather's good.
Nice. Are you there just to stock up on some goods?
No, I brought one of my friends out and his wife for an appointment.
Oh, okay.
He needed a lift out into town, and just thought would help him out. So
Good for you, being a good friend.
yeah.
So I'm almost done editing my video, and I kind of just had the thought and I'm discussing this in the video that all my life I had learned in school about First Nations, and in recent years seen a lot on in the media about residential schools and kind of all the atrocities that happened, and I live not too far from a reserve here as well. It's called the Six Nations, and I've been through there one time, and saw how the conditions are kind of poor, and um, I always kind of had pity for First Nations people, and then I went to Tofino and Ahousaht, and I kind of got the feeling that they're just like me. People have lives, they have jobs, they have businesses, they like yourself. People. It's yeah. I had this kind of idea that you guys were so different, but actually, I find that you're kind of just the same. And so I wonder, what do you think about, do you feel that maybe the media or government, or even just non-indigenous society in general kind of treats indigenous people differently or looks at them differently?
They look at us different. Yeah, for sure. But like you say, we have our pods of people that go through the struggle, and that's what they shine the light on. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Why do you think it is that they kind of have this emphasis on, First Nations and reserves so much?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you talk about residential school, right? And that's where a lot of our alcohol and our drugs and addiction and the struggle, even just to live life, right? You go through so much pain through residential school.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to direct their energy. when
Yeah.
it comes to that kind of stuff. And there's still ways of life that are affecting people that live the residential way to this day. And even I see it. And even I've experienced it even, right? My mom went through residential school. And I broke a lot of those cycles that she tried to raise me in the conditions that she went and lived through. And I would never ever put my kids through what my mom went through. In the lifestyle, like I'm like I am a clean person, but like the way my mom always had tone about it or sounded angry, you know, those kind of things. That cycle, I broke that cycle. Having my own kids, because I just like reflect on it and I'm like, oh, man. And I used to always tell my mom, no, it's okay, it's okay. She used to always apologize and be sorry, and so I broke that cycle. And
Good for you.
We're in a new modern era where times have changed and you just need to heal. Like even alcoholism, drugs, I broke that cycle too. So yeah, I reflect on a lot of that, and a lot of things have changed for me from how I was raised and how I raised my own kids, and focus on giving them a good lifestyle, a healthy, clean environment. So yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So your mom went through residential school.
Yeah.
And she, like, would you say a lot of her substance abuse was due to like the traumas that she experienced in school?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even she broke that cycle too with substance abuse and stuff. And
okay.
Yeah, right from probably when I was about 16-ish to when I left the nest, and even farther on into this dog. Yeah, pretty much from 16, she's been alcohol free.
You took me past that wellness center on the island.
Yeah.
Are you like happy and hopeful with the kind of work that's being done to help people in the community? Do you wish that there was more that could be done?
Yeah, for sure, because I see a lot of drug abuse and alcohol abuse, and then even through COVID, right? Like, we've lost a lot of people to substance abuse. So, in a lot of sense, I'm glad that they're taking more steps to just our medical center and our Chachamayak, our counselors and stuff. We're falling into the next step now with the wellness center. And then we got the longhouse coming too, which will help heal and help people open up their eyes to culture and our way of life, and you know, some good change.
You called it a longhouse?
Yeah, we've got a longhouse coming.
Okay.
And even with that coming, like the project itself is like a $8 or $9 million project, so it's gonna help create employment for a lot of our people, which is good.
And that's gonna be in Ahousaht?
Yeah, it's gonna be here in Ahousaht. They're breaking ground on it pretty soon, I'd imagine.
Do you see like the reserve, you know, one day becoming like having all the facilities that, you know, say there are in like Port Alberni, like, you know, grocery stores and, you know, doctors and all that?
Yeah, that's the next step too, is to get a doctor in our community 24 hours a day kind of
Yeah,
thing. And as far as like food markets go, those are in the works too. I've heard people talk about the demand for that because
for sure.
our community is so, I wouldn't say so big, but it's needed.
Yeah, I mean, a long time ago, people must have not had to go so far to get food. I imagine people fished and like, did people farm a long time ago? Like, how did people, in past centuries get their food?
They lived off the land.
Yeah,
They would go from certain parts of their territory and they would move around according to the seasons, right?
right.
To be able to survive and be efficient. They would paddle in their canoes from Ahousaht to Kelsmith. Yeah, Warren Bay, Moyahe. There was spots where they would go hunt like deer and they would go harvest berries and fish and stuff like that. So
Wow. I read online that one of the reasons that back in the late 1800s that the government um, started building these schools to you know um, integrate indigenous people and especially children into kind of the Western society was because a lot of the like ways that the First Nations were making were surviving, through following, animals and living off the land, and even like they, they mentioned the fur trade that was changing, and so they again, this is just one place that I read this said that it was done to kind of um, almost kind of prepare them for like the 20th century and the new economy and the new society. um do you, were you, were you ever told about like that happening, and that your people were having difficulties maybe with surviving on the land, or was that something that you never heard of?
Almost sounds like an excuse for those schools to be built.
Interesting. Interesting.
Like, because our children at home, they learn early years, like how to harvest and stuff like that.
Okay.
In the early years of their lives, they learn, they're taught early, and whether it's by parents or schools, the teachers at home.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's just kind of my own opinion and
Yeah.
for the residential. Yeah, they took all the language away and stuff, and it's harder for me as an adult learner to learn our language versus like teaching the 3-year-old or 2-year-old our language.
For
Because,
sure.
like I ask a whole bunch of questions of why it's done like that, why it's said like that, why it's spelled like that kind of thing, and the little children that we were teaching, they don't ask those kind of questions. They just learn how to say it and stuff like that. So yeah, that's big.
So your kids, like at school, do they have teachers who teach them the language?
Yeah.
Wow. So would you say that your kids are like more fluent than you are?
No. No, I heard the language also growing up, but I
Right.
didn't learn it. I heard it, so I know how it's like pronounced and stuff.
Right.
So
now you're advanced.
I started learning it about a few years ago, full on like classes and stuff like that.
Okay.
And
So like the classes that you're taking, there must have been someone who kept it alive all these years, right? Maybe
yeah,
elders?
there's still quite a few during COVID.
Elders.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's getting grim, but it's still alive.
Do you think that one day it could get to the point where like the use of the language actually goes up and it goes back to what it used to be?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the goal. There's like so many other adults to the day that are interested versus like none at all that used to be interested. On our reserve anyways.
Yeah.
Maybe 30 to 40 people, maybe more, that were interested in starting beginners stuff. So that's a good number.
Why do you think it is that in the past people weren't interested, but they are now?
Probably their children that bring it home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And who or when or what was kind of the reason that started, that people started revitalizing the language?
There's I guess hope for some of us that like for myself, it wasn't in my plan at all to learn it, and then I kind of got put into the position to teach it at work.
Oh, okay. Do you work in a school?
I did. I don't anymore.
Okay.
But I did, and so that's what got me into it. But there's another lady, she's younger than me, and we used to go to the same workshops and stuff, and then to hear, like, it's so good to see these young people in here, and it was like, that was good enough ammo for me to continue. But this younger lady, she's the language and culture teacher for the elementary. She showed what she had to offer to our children, and it like opened up the eyes of the parents. That's what I think. I think this one lady set the tone for our language to come alive.
Wow.
I don't know if she knows it or realizes it or whatever, but that's what I see from the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Another thing I noticed is that a lot of people have like very English sounding names. Like even like Chinese last name Brown isn't obviously an English sounding last name. Like and like I imagine that doesn't come from your language. So do you know where like the anglicized names come from and how that kind of comes from your own traditional name?
That's all the government. That's all from the government back in the day. Like say my grandparents, they I can't remember how it was back in the day, if they used their first name for their last name kind of thing or something like that along the lines. Or I don't really remember how those goes, but it's all from the government.
So they just kind of like assign you a name, basically.
Yeah.
Would it be like do you know if the person would be able to choose, or if it like related to their family, or if it was kind of just like very like random kind of?
It was just like random, like whatever, I don't know. Like a lot of the kids back in the day had their own native names.
Yeah.
And it was only one name. It wasn't like John Smith. It
right.
was just one native name, like I'll use Kenny's grandfather's name, Imstra.
Okay.
It's like that. They'd only have one name. So yeah, it's all government based.
Yeah.
Today, yeah.
Wow. Do you and Kenny have also native names?
I have my native name.
I don't.
Kenny doesn't.
What is your native name?
Su'a'upla.
Su'a'upla.
Yeah. I'm not too sure what it means actually, but
Okay.
when I try to do research on it and stuff, it was like holding something special.
Okay.
That's the answers I got for that. It was from my grandfather back when I become a lady.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all of that. I really appreciate it. And is there anything else that you'd like to share?
My grandfather has a book that's called As Far As I Know. I don't know if you've heard about it.
It's called As Far As I Know.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll look it up.
His name's Peter Webster.
Peter Webster. Okay.
So touch on a lot of culture that we used to.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a very long book. It will give you kind of details on what we were just sharing with you two, and no more in depth, I guess, as he's way older than I am.
Is he still alive?
No, he's passed on.
He's passed on. Well, thank you again for sharing all that. I appreciate your honesty and you're speaking very candidly. Thank you. I feel much more enlightened on and I think I realize really that we're the same. We're human beings, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of portrayals, especially in media, that tend to do more harm than good.
Yeah.
And I hope that this little video I'm making can do some good.
Yeah. Can you ship us a link when you?
Absolutely. I'll send you the link.